We good. All right. Good evening. Good evening. Welcome to this town hall, TMH town hall. And I am Nicole Everett, host of Conversations with Nicole. Held the show on November 3rd with Attorney Mutaki Akbar, Dr. Bruce Strobel, Chuck Hobbs, and Dr. Marlon Clark Williams to talk about the TMH FSU merger. And so several folks in the community said they wanted to have a town hall. And so here we are. So welcome. We appreciate you all being here, both in person and virtually. We are live on Tallahassee Alert, as well as Conversations with Nicole, Tallahassee Alert Facebook page, Conversations with Nicole YouTube channel. So if there are some folks in the audience that you know that folks want to be part of this conversation but aren't physically able to be here, please refer them to those pages. We will be taking questions and comments from the virtual platform. So, attorney.
Hello, everybody. My name is Mutaki Akbar. I'm an attorney here in town. And so, like Nicole said, this whole thing started as a conversation amongst a few of us, such as Bruce with Tallahassee Alert, Marlon Williams Clark, who's coming in now with the NAACP, Chuck Hobbs, who's on his way as well as Nicole said, well, guys, there's a lot of talk going on, but what are we going to do? And so when that turned into, well, let's go on your show and let's just have a conversation. Mm-hmm. And anybody who watched that conversation, you all can see just how it was a very fluid conversation, but we also wanted to really get into the details of what was going on with the merger between TMH and FSU. And so when everybody kept saying, it went on for about 2 hours, and everybody kept saying, well, let's do a part two, let's do a part two. And so this is considered to be the part two. And what we want to come out of this conversation is, one, to inform everybody as much as possible as far as what's at stake and what's going on in the MOU and what the timeline is, and then what we can ask as far as our commissioners when it comes down to December 10th. I think that's when the vote is up now, to be informed enough to know what to go ask or demand from our commissioners in regards to this sale. So we have an all-star panel that's going to be educating the community about it. And then from there, we want to have, again, a conversation with the community. It's going to be a real town hall and not just people talking. So again, thanks for coming out and to do this. We're all volunteering our time, so we appreciate everybody coming out to do this. And
we do.
Dr.
Strobel.
Yeah, so again, just following up with what was said, thank you all for being here. This is a very important event to us. That's why we all came together to say we need to get community involvement. We need community input. We don't want any decisions going forward without your input. And everyone in here as a member of this community, we know you all have something to say. So in order to facilitate that, we have a couple of ground rules. We will have public comment spaces where we invite you all to talk, but we want to hear from everyone. So during those times, we ask that you limit your comments to 1 minute. And then before you can make a second comment, you will have to wait for all the other available speakers to go because we want to hear from everyone. We do have some slated speakers on our agenda, so we'll be calling them up shortly as we get started. Lastly, it's okay to disagree, but we don't want people to be disagreeable. We do have, the rule is, as long as you're showing respect, we're not attacking people personally, you're allowed to participate. If you violate those rules, there will be a warning. And if you cannot comply after that warning, you will be asked to leave. So I just want to put that out there at the beginning because we've had events here before and people get real emotional about what's going on locally, but we're not here to fight. We're here to work together and come to a resolution. So again, I thank you all for being here, and I'm going to hand it to the president of the NAACP, Dr. Marlon Williams Clark. Did I say it right? Yes, I did. Mm-hmm. And you are going to start off with the first briefing, and you got a couple minutes just to talk about how we got here. And then following you will be Serenity Williams.
Good evening, everyone. I am Dr. Marlon Williams Clark, the president of the Tallahassee branch of NAACP. So we're here to talk about what is on the table. So we know that in March of this year, there was an asking of the city commission from TMH to have a separate board concerning the facility in Panama City, in which they were partnering with FSU to have. And so The city actually pumped the brakes on that because they didn't understand why they were asking for a separate board for another hospital, as well as having Tallahassee name on a hospital or associated with a hospital far beyond the region in which Tallahassee serves, TMH serves. So, and it should also be noted that the talks of an academic medical center has been in discussion since around 2008. However, the majority of the public probably did not know those talks were happening, or may not have known how deep those talks were, or maybe just heard like little sprinkles, but not knowing exactly what was going on. So then we get to just a few months ago, in which that's kind of where everything blew up, where everyone, we got news about FSU buying the assets for TMH, which is what we call the dirt, the building, everything that's inside the hospital, because that's what the city owns. And so there was a proposal for FSU to purchase that, alongside with getting the partnership with TMH to have this academic medical center. It should also be stated that FSU is is in the process of building a facility on the campus of TMH as well. But that's where a lot of people became concerned and not truly understanding why you have to have a sale of the assets in order to have a partnership to have an academic medical center. And people not knowing what exactly the cost was, or what the talks were. And then we got into, well, I say we, but the community or FSU, TMH, there was discussion about board seats, which is what got us here today, but also the concern about who will control the hospital. So as we have been told, and according to the MOU, the hospital will stay the same. They will still, the TMH will still run itself. But as far as branding, FSU Health would start at some point to be the brand of the hospital. But people also became concerned about whether or not the state would have some heavy influence or control over local healthcare, with TMH being a community hospital, what have you. FSU has its ambitions, but the TMH board also has its own concerns. And so this is where we are today. And as you all, if you have been keeping up and staying in tune with the news, you can see that there has been discussions about board control. There has been a concern about, with FSU's ambitions of academic medical center, what does that leave FAMU's health programs such as pharmacy, public health, nursing, and allied health programs, which include physical therapy, occupational therapy, cardiopulmonary science, which is the major for respiratory therapists, and healthcare administrators, which all of those are housed at FAMU. So there was some concern about whether at some point FSU may go for those programs in their pursuit of their ambitions for an academic health center. So that is where we are right now. And so we're here today to open up to hear everybody's concerns and try to understand where we want to move as a community, because as I see it, and as we have been discussing, the community in large part has been left out of this conversation when it is something that affects us to our core of our community and our healthcare. And going back to the statement about whether the state would have control, we all have seen what has happened in our state. We've seen things, information and data being hidden. We've seen asinine comments come from the state surgeon general concerning vaccines and things like that. So it is concerning for people to not have politics infused into healthcare decisions. So that is where we are now. All right. Serenity Williams, ladies and gentlemen.
Okay, so I guess I don't want to spend too much time repeating much of what he said, but I guess just to break down a little more that what we've been hearing so far, as again, people who've been talking about this, what we've been seeing in the news, is that we're sort of hearing that FSU wants to expand their FSU Health Center, that they're wanting to build a medical research and teaching facility that they think will increase research capacity in this area. They want to develop a long-term partnership of some degree with the hospital. But also TMH, they're wanting to improve a financial position that they're in, that they are wanting to maintain, though, being the region's major community hospital. They're wanting to expand their clinical research capacity, and again, have some sort of workforce development pipelines that they have continue. And again, some of the current proposal on the table is that the city is transferring the ownership of the hospital campus to FSU, which they would then lease back to TMH, the nonprofit. Now, what's at stake and what's being argued again, and Marlon Williams Clark already said this, but both sides seem to agree or be on the same page that we want some sort of partnership, but a big thorn seems to be about how we negotiate to get there, and a big sticking point being the ownership of the assets, the building itself. There's been some concerns raised about there not being a evaluation or an evaluation of the building and how much it owes, an appraisal. There's been concerns, again, what Dr. Marlene Clark explained about the state through FSU having control over what is being researched or what comes out of that university or that research facility. There's been some concerns, again, about what it would mean for the debt that has been on TMH, what it would happen if now the city relinquishes that building, what occurs, and a bunch of other different concerns that the people, which is why we said we needed to have a town hall to talk about all of these different issues. And it sort of feels like there's a timeline on this, as this will probably come up to a vote pretty soon with the city commission. So I think I'll pass it to Attorney Chuck Hobbs to, again, give another overview of where we are right now.
Good evening, everybody. Again, pardon me for being late, had some familial issues to deal with, but I'm glad to be here speaking on behalf of many people like I am who are natives of this city, who have lived here for generations. As I often say in my blogs and on Facebook, I have a fifth generation Tallahassean. 4 generations of my family are buried out at either Southside Cemetery or right up the street at Greenwood. And I say that to recognize that when we talk about Tallahassee, this city that we all love, and many of us have come to love, I actually was raised up and learned a lot of lessons about when Tallahassee was not a place that was very happy and lovable for people of color. So as a historian, long before I ever became a lawyer or anything else, one of my big concerns when I first learned that this process was about to take place was trying to make sure that the historically disadvantaged Black community in this city and in this area is taken care of within any memoranda of understanding or any pending sale between TMH, FSU, the city, and what have you. My concerns, as I expressed at length on Facebook a couple of months ago when I first learned about what was going on, is the fact that this was done in a surreptitious manner. And because of that, and knowing the history that I know, that raised some red flags to me with regards to, well, if we are this big kumbaya place that everyone claims that we are now, this whole one Tallahassee, one city, FSU, FAMU, all together and what have you, then if this was going to be the case, why was this not transparent from the get-go? And so that has been the biggest issue that I have had. I've talked at length about the facts. Some of you may know this, some of you may not. This city has always been racially stratified, at least until the early 1970s, when it comes to medical care. Medical care for Black people was specious at best in most situations. And when it was taken care of, it was at the Florida A&M University Hospital, which existed from 1911 until 1971. But what often goes unsaid with that, and something that I know very well, based upon not only being a historian, but being a fifth generation Tallahassean whose family members were either born at FAMU Hospital or were birthed by a midwife at home, or who, when they were sick, were denied certain cares. There were certain things that the FAMU Hospital could do, and there were certain things that it could not. Because as was often the case during Jim Crow, everything that was Black tended to be underfunded and dealing with stuff a day late and a dollar short. And so with that, my concern is we don't ever want to go back to that. Now, there will be some people who are rolling their eyes and be like, oh, here comes the histrionics, and that, but it's not, because it's the same playbook. It's the same playbook that, oh no, we want FAMU to succeed, that led to FAMU's law school originally being taken from it and then being moved over to Florida State the year later. It was the, oh, we want FAMU to succeed, with the persistent conversations that we have right now in the Florida legislature, as well as with the Board of Governors, where there are people, the current incoming Board of Governor chairman is a man named Alan Levine, and he is consistently talking about closing the FAMU School of Allied Health, the FAMU School of Nursing, the FAMU Law School, and moving it to UCF or over to FSU. You've got to pull your head out the sand and recognize the plays that are in effect. So with that, I say all that to say, and I get a little emotional about it because, again, the familiar history that I have in this area, I'm here to learn. I'm here to hear what is it that's on the table. I want to know, why was this done in the dark? And I want to know how my community, the Black community, will benefit from any pending sale. So I look forward to learning all that I can tonight with the rest of you. Thank you.
So right now, I'm going to read a statement from County Commissioner Bill Proctor. He was not able to be here because there is a County Commissioner meeting tonight, but he did send a statement, and it's quite extensive, regarding his view of the TMH FSU partnership merger, or however you want to frame it. It says, thank you for hosting a town hall meeting on the TMH FSU merger of a community hospital orchestrated by Mayor Daley and the city leaders in private deal making. The county commission meets today. I cannot arrive in time to personally share my views as county commissioner for Leon County District 1. I therefore will succinctly share candid perspectives about the agreement as follows. First, he talks about the process. He said, it is appalling and disturbing to note the cowardice of the city government to secretly and away from public sunshine orchestrate a deal to sell the public asset called Tallahassee Memorial Hospital. Apparently, only Mayor Daley and the city manager went in secret to meet FSU's beckoning for the city's hospital. The TMH CEO initially was frustrated and upset by the announcement of a pending merger between the hospital and the FSU Medical School. The TMH board of directors were surprised. The 4 city commissioners were surprised. The board of county commissioners were surprised. FAMU decried the transaction, insisting a representative from FAMU must be a part of the FSU TMH governing board. Tallahassee State College has asserted unreadiness over this deal. TSC claims it prepares a high volume of medical workers and has been a partner with TMH for years, but TSC is now denied representation and a voice on the governing board. Bond Community Health is not linked into this proposed healthcare alliance. Neighborhood health is also overlooked and excluded from the conversation, which the FSU president will not be reopened. Bond and Neighborhood are both FQHC qualified and recognized. They provide the bulk of healthcare to the underinsured across our community. Yet, both healthcare entities are frozen out of the new arrangement. It remains unclear how the patients at Bond and Neighborhood will be accommodated for hospitalization if Daley's plan for merger occurs. Then he goes on to talk about poor people. District 1 has a high percentage of people whose economic status could reference them as poor. District 1 features Title I schools exclusively. District 1 embodies zip code 32304. The 32304 zip code that lies between District 1 and District 2 has been ignored continuously by Florida State University. However, FSU will scavenge District 1 occasionally to recruit athletes. Yet FSU has proven to have no other commitment to enroll students from District 1, which represents Tallahassee's urban core, from Tharp Street at the north end down to Oak Ridge Road at the south end of the district. Bond and neighborhood have served poor people religiously, adhering to the words of Jesus, saying, "As you have done unto the least, so it is you have done unto me." Poor people are the patients that teaching hospitals utilize to teach medical trainees who seek to become physicians. No doubt will FSU seek to steal the patients of neighborhood and Bond. Where else will they obtain poor people from? Quincy, Wakulla, Madison, rural communities? FSU Medical School is designated to train doctors for rural communities. Its Panama City Hospital will suffice in meeting this mission. It is unclear whether FSU will harvest the patients away from Bond and neighborhood health centers, both serving the citizens in District 1. As you recall, FAMU Hospital was closed so that its patients could be harvested in order for TMH to continue receiving federal funds from the federal government's Department of Health, Education, and Welfare. Patient harvesting for medical purposes, pursuits, and practice is older than the Tuskegee Syphilis Project. Under the protocols of today's medical establishment, there is less oversight and less stringent guidelines governing healthcare service fields, period. The questions surrounding the continuity of care for thousands of Bond, neighborhood, and District 1 citizens ain't clear. Then he goes on to talk about state control. Florida State University will control the TMH enterprises. Florida State University adheres strictly to state prescribed anti-DEI policies. TMH does not acknowledge or impose DEI policies as a basis to secure its funding. Any entity whose funding is tied to its adherence to anti-diversity, equity, and inclusion is a frightening proposition to Black people. FSU has not apologized for its adoption of state policies that target Black, minority, and women populations. When people show you who they are, believe them. What will happen to Black doctors, pharmacists, nurses, and professionals if FSU is the new overlords over the TMH medical experience? Has the William Gunn Medical Society been involved? No. If there is a basis for sensitivity by the NAACP, I sincerely assert that FSU's disposition toward DEI is dangerous, backwards, and racist. It is very important that racism is not a driving force and a functional principle for a hospital to operate under. Yet, this is exactly what will abide if FSU is in control over TMH. Then he goes to talk about public input. This so-called agreement, executed in principle outside of public engagement, must be put on a referendum vote in November 2026. Anything short would preclude the voices of citizens. 4 to 6 individuals have possibly criminally exchanged quid pro quo opportunities for themselves. Quid pro quo, there is public banter in the aftermath of the proposed FSU and TMH agreement. The following has occurred. Number one, TMH CEO has a new annual contract that now pays $3.1 million. 2, FSU president received a $500,000 bonus for securing a hospital for FSU. I have not verified either of these facts. I share information that has been public chatted up with sadness and disbelief. Where do we go from here? Number 1, keep the current status quo with TMH as an independent health entity that is not under the dictates of the state of Florida, through its agent, Florida State University. 2, condemn any and all personal rewards assigned to the negotiations representing TMH FSU in the city of Tallahassee. 3, demand clarity for Bond and neighborhood services. 4, demand this merger be abandoned and thrown out. 5, file lawsuits, legal covering issues I omitted sharing. 6, open investigation around the negotiations. 7, issue a position statement that formally states for the people why the NAACP opposes the actions committed against citizens under the daily agreement giving TMH to FSU. In closing, he says, Florida State University does not have the capacity to fund, maintain, and operate a hospital. Will doctors, nurses, pharmacists come under the Florida retirement system as employees of Florida State University? Will FSU meet the TMH payroll? Will a hospital taxing district be initiated by a majority city commission vote? Frankly, there has not been a detailed cost analysis commensurate to the responsibility levels that are required to be met. The haste, exclusiveness, and privacy of this so-called deal have blindsided our community and deserve opposing. Finally, the Board of County Commissioners have been ignored totally. This is unacceptable. I appreciate your due diligence, and I submit these observations as a representative of the 60,000 people I represent as County Commissioner. Sincerely, Bill Proctor, Leon County Commissioner.
Thank you, Marlon. All right, next we are going to have a quick panel discussion. I'm going to call forth Dr. Cameron Browning and Mr. Ryan Ray to give institutional and clinical perspectives, and you all can have a seat at the table. And Dr. Cameron Browning is an MD doctor, right? Okay. So if you could give some perspective to this issue, Dr. Brown.
Yes. All right. My name is Cameron Browning. I'm a family medicine physician, and I'm also a former TMH family medicine resident. And I probably am a bit more knowledgeable about this situation than probably the hearsay that has been going on. I joined TMH in 2022 for family medicine residency, and I will tell you, at even the beginning of my residency, we were giving knowledge that there was a upcoming merger for FSU and TMH. Just to give you guys a perspective, TMH family medicine was the oldest family medicine residency in the state of Florida, created about 75 years ago. In 2008 is when TMH actually formed a partnership with FSU, in which they incorporated the other residency programs, in which were internal medicine, general surgery, and they just also added psychiatry. Within that, I believe in 2001, the partnership was agreed upon between TMH and FSU to move forward, in which the plans to build the building that everyone is talking about, located behind the Gasvini Center, was also finalized at that point. I happen to be the last class that would formally be a TMH family medicine resident, while everyone subsequently after me will be FSU family medicine residents. I will tell you, for me, and let me give you this disclaimer: no, I am not a board member for TMH. No, I was not privy to their meetings, so I can only tell you the information that I know, or I can also give you my personal experience within this. But the merger, I was told again, was to become an academic research center. I think, and to give you an example, everyone in here has probably heard of U of Shands. And that's pretty much what TMH was going after, to open up, to have more research dollars. TMH has been a nonprofit, in which even in the merger, I believe, and anyone can tell me whether I'm wrong or not, but the merger is for FSU to buy the property, and TMH will sign a 40-year lease agreement, in which TMH will still be the operator of the hospital. And so that way they will still have their nonprofit tax exempt status. TMH also will keep their board members, in addition to adding FSU board members. And I believe they've also agreed to add a representative or board member from Florida A&M. And this is per FSU. FSU is also encouraging and stating that there will be no changes to the other additional schools, including FAMU, TSC. We all work together, we all train together, and there are numerous health professionals, as you guys outlined before. And I think it's very important that it continues to be that way. I understand, and I'm an individual, I'm a native of this community. I was born and raised here, so I'm very familiar also historically of the the mistrust that the Black community has. I know someone even commented on the Tuskegee experience historically. So yes, there has historically been an issue of trust, and you want transparency. So I also understand frustrations with this being brand new news to the general public. I cannot tell you or speak upon everyone's specific intentions, but I can tell you there are some pros and cons of being an academic research center. TMH was a nonprofit in which stated that their financial status was not as great. So merging with FSU, I believe they were granted $126 million that was allocated by DeSantis in 2022 to move forward with the building and move forward with this merger. Basically what it does is it brings in research dollars. It brings in more specialists also to Tallahassee. And I'll tell you this, as a family medicine doc, Tallahassee is the capital, but we also do have a small amount of specialists in this area. So a pro to that is bringing in other individuals that specialize in the rare specialties. We sometimes we lack a specialty where we have to send someone to Jacksonville or Shands, and that may alleviate some of those or be able to attractively draw more individuals willing to work and do more research here. Also, a benefit is, again, spreading out. And I know people also have heard of FSU, I believe, having a hospital in Panama City. And I know people also have concerns. Okay, well, is the hospital going to limit access? And I'm going to say this personally. I don't believe no hospital is going to limit access to any group. In today's society, that is very rare in between. And I'm gonna tell you, yes, I may have a different viewpoint because I'm a physician. My concern is a patient and the well-being of a patient regardless. So I'm not a CEO. I don't have that mindset. I have not been trained. I've always been trained to give my best to any individual regardless of your status. And that's the way it was always be. And that's the way that I know a lot of different professionals, along with myself, that still work for TMH. That's how they feel. Obviously, some of these things are political, government related. Some things are out of a doctor's control. We're physicians for the hospital, but also we're not the CEO. We're not the ones making those decisions. And then also, I even just to even comment on things like neighborhood and bond. Neighborhood and bond are tremendous to this community. And if anyone doesn't know what a federally qualified healthcare center is, it is basically a center that has the ability to take care of patients who are uninsured, who lack the financial ability, and this is more for primary care services. Those services, those individuals will always still be able to go to a hospital. There's never had to be an agreement in between a FQHC and a hospital for them to shuttle a patient there. As a physician, we're all granted credentialing. We're granted hospital privileges. So, for example, me, I
Dr.
serve.
Browning,
Yes, sir.
thank you for your comments.
Thank you. I wanted to explain as much as possible. In the
We
quickest time.
appreciate it. We do, but we want to give Mr. Ray an opportunity to comment.
Thanks a ton for that. I don't know much about the clinical aspects of medicine, but I can tell you that this entire process, from the practice of government and governance, has been just an abject failure. There has been nobody. We had very expensive and very comprehensive elections last cycle at the city level. Nobody ran on this issue. I believe that this issue was fastidiously hidden from the voters, and the ball has been hidden on this every single step of the way. There's no question to me that medical providers obviously are going to do the best that they can. They're going to continue with their Hippocratic oath, right, to do the best that they can given the circumstances that they're in it. But when it comes to how a huge decision like this should become enacted in our community, this process has failed from every level. It has failed to gain consensus. I hear conversation out in the world that we have to make the best of it because it's a done deal. No, it's not, y'all. Nothing that comes before that city commission is done in advance. I think we had substantial play in our last elections from folks who have an interest in this, who probably anticipated this before the public. I think we've got to ask ourselves questions about that. I largely agree with the issues about the process that Commissioner Proctor. I would reiterate what he's got to say there. Look, at the end of the day, do you want the people in our community to run our hospital like it has for the past 8 decades? Or do you want Ron DeSantis to control your hospital? That's what this ultimately comes down to. Ron DeSantis and his office have been intimately familiar with, has been intimately driving this, of course, hiding the hand, but very, very deeply involved. We have a Surgeon General with Joseph Ladapo, who's getting paid over $1 million by University of Florida. And if you like what they've done at University of Florida under this state government leadership, just give them the hospital and see how it goes. At a certain point, when it comes to being a city and a community of interest in a polity, there is a limit to how much power and how much control should one actor have. Though no matter what is in these MOUs, if we give over the assets of our hospital to Florida State University, the state government calls the tune, period. Some people like the current president of FSU, some people don't, but I can guarantee you the next one will be worse. I think that FAMU stands to lose about the most of anybody in this deal. It's been talked about over and over again, the historic disinvestment that FAMU has suffered at the hands of state policymakers. And I was working as a journalist at the Capitol when I think it was 2015 session, John Thrasher, months or a year before he was assumed the presidency of WFSU, tried to kill right there on the Senate floor FAMU's part of the engineering school. Does FSU even have FAMU still around in its long-term multi-decade project? I don't know. Are they going to absorb it? I don't know. But I know if we continue to concentrate more power into fewer hands, into hands that are diametrically opposed to the values of our community, we're getting more and more close to a Republican takeover. Now, if you're the Republican Party in Florida, I think that's really important. We don't like to say the D versus R words sometimes in these communities, but it's very material to who we are. If you're trying to take over a community where you're not very welcome, you're not going to say, "Oh, hi, I'm the Republicans." What you're going to say you're going to say something like, "We have a transformative opportunity to make this work better for you," just like has happened to FAMU over the years. So I think that when you have a Surgeon General and Ladapo and what's been done at UF, we don't want to repeat that here. You have a Surgeon General who has been anti-science, who is against fluoridating the water, which was done by the stroke of a pen across all of our communities. We have someone who has really restrictive personal health rights, right, about reproductive health. And we have an anti-science administration that has also been explicitly anti-vaccine, which, if you're a practitioner of health in this community, has got to be very, very worrisome for you. Are they going to prevent vaccines from being administered to children? Will state rules against racism and against historic disinvestment, even looking at that, come along with giving our state university and basically, frankly, our state government, our local hospital? I think that those are all things that we need to look deeply into. And I'd say, to say the very least, let's pause this deal, right? Let's take a look and let's make sure all the stakeholders have their concerns met. And at the very least, let's not go barreling forward with what I think right now would be a reckless and irrevocable decision made in a cloud of dust right now that will be with us for decades to come.
Mr. Ray, please share your affiliation.
Yeah, I'm Ryan Ray. In my day job, I work for City Commissioner Jeremy Matlow, and I'm speaking tonight as the chair of the Leon County Democratic Party.
Thank you so much. All right, so we are going to our lightning public comment round. So this will be an opportunity for folks, you all, to give comments specifically around, do we support a merger at all? And you'll have 60 seconds, and mics are going around. So anybody, just raise your hand if you want to give comment. State your name and your position.
Sarah Cawthon, no merger at this time. Keep state government out of our hospital and make the process open and do a referendum.
Thank you.
So in order for them to get online, they have to if they want to line up here and just do a quick statement. Yeah.
Oh,
So
you want them to come up?
yeah.
Okay,
Sorry,
can you all come up to the front
You could just come
with your
live.
question? Can you come up front if you have a question? Yeah. Oh, okay. You have a mobility issue.
Hi, my name is Tiwa Aiken. My position is no to the merger at this time, or no to the merger, period. Um, Three questions that I want to say. The first one is, how would we retain community input after this hospital is given to FSU? Like, how do we exert community influence once another thing is taken to be FSU's? FAMU has been given a separate MOU than the one that is written. We are not written into the MOU as described. And I'm questioning, one, because it is a non-binding MOU that they are trying to pass, it can change already. Why are we not written into the bare minimum MOU that is present? And when can we get the actual definitive things? And then just hearing more in this process, I really don't even have a third question. I just do not think that this is good governance. I believe that we should pause this deal and actually move through it as a community and be able to speak to it in such a way that we can actually feel comfortable with community control and not having the government do it.
Thanks, man.
Hello. So, similar to the concerns that
Please state your name.
Oh, sorry. My name is Tara Botter. Any more information I need to give?
No.
Okay. So there's a lot of concern about like FAMU's like place in the agreement and like whether or not they're actually written into the agreement. And I was at the commissioner meeting, and they were talking about how they would like it's in the spirit of the agreement that FAMU would have like say in the decisions regarding the hospital and in the merger, but like they didn't actually put them into the agreement, which is like a little iffy as well. And then also like, because this is such a consequential issue that affects so many people, like I do think like there should be more like direct democratic like consensus about this. And like it is like a public hospital in ownership. So like there should like it should be ensured that like the community as a whole actually agrees to this merger. And then also like, are all of the benefits that FSU and TMH that could like, they could gain potentially from this agreement, like does FSU actually need to take ownership of this hospital for us to be able to accomplish those things? Because like bringing in more technicians and things of that nature, like we could try to like work out a more cooperative agreement that doesn't necessarily mean transferring that ownership over and giving a lot of power to the state government.
Thank you. I have one in the back. Ms. Katrina.
Hi, good evening. My name is Katrina Rivers. I'm the president of the Big Bend Black Nurses Association. As a clinician, I wanted to make a statement. I am a two-time graduate of Florida Agricultural and Mechanical University School of Nursing. And I also just celebrated 30 years of being licensed as a nurse in September. My first job was at Tallahassee Memorial Hospital. So I just want to remind people that FAMU made the first major sacrifice in order for TMH to be what it is today. The money that was to be allocated to make repairs and upgrades to that FAMU hospital went instead to TMH and closed the FAMU hospital down. The agreement was that they would desegregate and offer care to people of color when they had not in the past. I also want to say that as a scientist, predictive analysis is based on historical and statistical models. So to say that something used to be a certain way doesn't mean that it will be going forward is not adequate enough for me. So there does still exist limitation in access to people in care. We see it often on social media. Most recently, the things that have been happening with maternal care, with people being denied dignified care. Having access to a facility does not mean you have access to quality care. Basing a sense of security on things like EMTALA, which is the law that says people are entitled to emergency care, basing it on thinking that facilities are going to just do the right thing because of regulations. We can see now in what's happening in the United States at a federal level that we just cannot rely on people to just do the right thing. So as far as funding is concerned as well, we've seen that folks have lost a lot of federal funding as it relates to healthcare and research. And we see a whole movement of anti-science, okay? And so we just cannot bank on somebody doing the right thing just because they're supposed to. Regulation is important. And so while healthcare should not be politicized, it most definitely is political because it is highly regulated.
Thank you.
Hold on. As promised, I do have to read some of the online comments, everybody. We can't leave our people who weren't able to join us out. So we have from Daikebra, she says, UF Shands is not able to take as many patients as they used to, and they are losing doctors and nurses all the time. And then we have Kim Ross, who says, a lot of people think that Shands, Mayo, and Moffitt provide better healthcare than TMH. And I think people are thinking we will get that. Is that a possibility? What is the evidence for and against that? So we'll try to answer those questions as we go forward. Thank you very much.
Hi, my name is Shirlene Stuckey. First of all, I want to say that I believe TMH is a great hospital. And I trust the doctors associated with TMH. And I fear that any decisions made about a merger would also impact the doctors who are associated with TMH, and that frightens me. I don't want politicians, and especially Florida State, the way it is in now with our politicians, I don't want them making decisions for my health care. Also, there's a reason why people do things in secret and try and rush things through, and it's usually not good for the people who are not involved in the decisions. I do not want the state running the hospital. The doctors who are leaving Shands, maybe we could attract them to TMH. Why do we need FSU to attract new doctors? You know, why do we need FSU? I also do not want FSU involved in decision-making at TMH, even without the state. It's a research hospital. And, you know, although I'm fine with experiments on humans as long as they agree, as long as they understand everything involved and agree to it. The problem with that is insurance won't pay for most of it, so they can't have it anyway. But these are my insights and feelings. I'm very frightened by this whole thing. TMH needs to remain a standalone hospital, in my opinion. You know, that's my opinion. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
And thank you for this opportunity.
No problem. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is James McAllister. My position is to at least unwind this agreement that seems to have taken place and start over again with it in the public. I too am a historian. I could talk about this for a long time, but I'll try and keep it to one point. People are aware of this Panama City campus that is being developed right now between FSU and TMH. What a lot of people don't know is that FSU signed an MOU with TMH to pay for that hospital. They've secured $420 million. However, they have not released any of that money to TMH since that money has been gotten by FSU. TMH is paying for the construction out there. Anytime we're talking about an MOU with FSU about seats or how this hospital is going to be organized and run, that MOU is worth the paper it's written on. That's all. I just want everyone to keep that in mind. That's my only comment. Thank you for having us here.
Thank you.
Before the next speaker, I would quickly add such a great point. There has not been an appraisal made of this hospital so far. Just want to say that for our edification. There has been some document that's been circulated. It is not an appraisal. It says within it many times it's not an appraisal, and I just don't think we should be doing business if we don't know our facts. Pardon me.
Hello, my name is Carolyn Burns. My position is stop for now. There may be a path forward for partnership in the future, and I would love to see more medical research being done and more opportunities for scientists and researchers in our community. However, I am deeply concerned about the quality of care for people who are currently being targeted by the state. Women, their access to reproductive care, the queer community, things like gender affirming care, all of these are under attack by our state government now, and further state encroachment on control over this hospital, I worry will severely compromise the quality of care and the dignity of these patients. And of course, our, Black and brown and underinsured, all of these different groups that are currently facing anti-DEI policies and having their support stripped away, there needs to be deep concern, and these folks need to be at the table when we make these decisions, because there is nothing about us without us. Thank you.
I'm going to interrupt with another online comment very quickly. This is from J.D. Giramo. I apologize if I butchered your name. I'm sorry. All right. I am a FAMU graduate with nursing, doctors, and robotic specialized surgeons in my immediate family. My questions are, what makes anyone think that a university whose academics are secondary to its football industrial complex will yield promising talent? What makes anyone think that in a region where literacy, equal opportunity education, research grants, and basic wages are under siege, that this bodes well for talent acquisition and retention in the healthcare vertical? Final question. Oh, and it cuts off, so we'll leave it at that.
Thank you. So my question is back, Maddie. Kopka. My question is back to the MOU. So on that, it says there's a pre-approved board for TMH, and that FSU gets seats from that board, I'm assuming. I don't quite understand that. But according to that, the pre-approved board is already full of FSU people. So if we're using FSU people from the TMH whatever and using them as board seats, how is that TMH? That's all FSU. And if they get a new board member every 2 years, that's losing a board member for TMH, which is still essentially is FSU, and giving it to FSU. That leaves nobody. That's just FSU people, which is completely state run, which is essentially just a fascist ideology. So to me, that's pointless. So I do not support this FSU merger. Thank you.
Go ahead. Introduce yourself too.
Yeah, is this working? Yeah. Can you hear me? I'm Gary Jordan. I'm the political consultant hired by TMH. Better? I've been hired by TMH to represent them in the political process. And so tonight I'm here to help maybe bring some clarity to that process, how it's going to work, what it looks like moving forward, and answer some of the questions like you just heard. Much of what I've heard tonight are regular discussions in the TMH boardroom. It has not gone unnoticed, and it has not gone unspoken. There's great concern about what level of community involvement there'll be in this process. As it was indicated earlier, we found out about the interest when you found out about the interest. And so TMH has been working diligently in a good partnership with Florida State, trying to get to the bottom of those issues. I think generally the community is supporting the idea of an academic health center. What it looks like is the issue, and how that process happens is where we are today. I've represented neighborhood health for a decade. I understand their place in our community. So there are really two key issues that sum up kind of most everything that's being discussed here today. the speed in which the conversations, the relevant conversations will be able to take place. One of the main issues for TMH is that the transfer to Florida State University of the property, if the commission agrees that that's the direction they want to go, not happen until all the contracts are signed and the community input has taken place. Now, that's a really important consideration. There's talk, and you guys hear what we hear, that the transfer may happen before those things are done. We've challenged city commissioners to be open to the things that we don't have answers to, because the people and organizations who are most directly affected don't have answers to. Appalachian Mental Health, Hospice, Capital Health Plan, the TMH Foundation, 13 different affiliates all around, neighborhood, bond. The reason that we don't know how they fall into this plan is because those discussions haven't happened. And to transfer the facility before those relevant discussions happen is something that is not comfortable for the board at TMH. They've been very clear that they do not want that transfer to happen until all those questions have been answered. Who fits where? How do we fit together? And how do we make this happen? In terms of the board structure, and I think that's really one of the biggest keys, from the very first day this happened, there was a promise made by the TMH board in this world where there seems to be this incredible lack of control of everything important to people, that there is a unique power given to the city commission in this process because of the ownership of the asset. The state can't stop the ownership of the asset. They can't influence the ownership of the asset as long as it's in the control of the Tallahassee City Commission. This has always been an audience of five. I mean, we all can talk about the things that are important to us, about the organizations that are important to us, but at the end of the day, this is an audience of five. There are five people who have this unique power to control this. They can ask for what they want. They can demand certain things, and that's up to them. And I can tell you there's been a lot of communication between FSU and the city and between TMH and the city on a lot of these relevant issues. I can't speak for FSU. I can only speak for TMH tonight. But I can tell you from the first day, TMH's rock solid commitment to the community was that they would maintain board control by at least one seat. There's been a lot of discussion about where FAMU fits into this, where Tallahassee State College fits into this. That's not a decision for TMH, because the way TMH views this is very linear. There are community seats, and every one of the seats, and especially in answer to that question a minute ago, every one of the seats at TMH are citizens who live here. They don't have affiliations with Florida State University. They are citizens who are donating their time to be community board members. The other side of the equation is higher education seats. The one thing that Florida A&M University, Tallahassee State College, and Florida State University all have in common is an affiliation with the state and have the potential to be influenced by the state. Whether they are or not is about who's there and who's not. You know, if we knew that Jim Murdaugh would be there for the next 100 years, we would look at that seat differently. But this agreement needs to be into perpetuity. It needs to overcome the players who will change over decades. It needs to be rock solid in its commitment to the citizens that the governance will remain the same over decades. And so because of that, we view the linear separation as community seats must have at least one more seat of people who live in this community by TMH, appointed solely by TMH, than the three combinations of higher ed seats. Whatever Florida A&M works out with FSU, whatever Tallahassee State College works out with FSU, that isn't something TMH can control, and we believe they should have the governance to do that as they see fit. Whatever arrangements they want to make, they can make. We We all have our individual preferences. From the beginning, TMH has always thought that FAMU should have a seat at the table, that Tallahassee State should have a seat at the table, that other organizations should have influence in this process. And so that's just the line in the sand that the board has drawn. One more seat of community members than higher education members. I hope that brings, some clarity to that issue. In terms of the governance, we've made it clear to the city, we don't think a transfer should occur until the questions that have been asked here are answered. We believe there are 3 votes to do this. I mean, if you've watched the meetings, I don't know how you can reach any other conclusion. 3 commissioners have expressed openly that they think this is a very, very good idea. And so with that, you have to operate on the land that exists. So, I'm here. I'll try and answer any other questions I have that people have, but those are really the 2 most primary issues that are influencing where we are right now.
Thank you.
If anybody know Trish, y'all know this is not going to be a minute, but we'll stay in
How y'all doing tonight, everybody? I'm Trish Brown. I'm the executive director of Power Up People, and I'm a former city commission runner. And I can't even repeat enough about the lack of transparency. Everybody has said that in here. The inclusiveness that we all deserve as community members. But I'm going to go past the lack of transparency and community involvement, and I'll get back to that in a second. I got to go to work anyway. But my concern, the concerns about FSU's motives are a huge issue. And I won't go into details about that either. I know it's been repeated here too. Unequal board representation, and I can't express that enough in regards to how it just shouldn't be FSU having power. TMH, Florida State University, and TSC should have all equal power, but we should have community members that are inclusive and actually on that board as well to have like equal say in regards to how you move. So again, right there, that's an issue for me. The lack of independent appraisal, somebody spoke on that already. And thank you for that. But again, the backdoor underhandness of it all is just absurd. And I just want to just say that in regards to TMH, having this discussion with Florida State University initially, I don't know how even as TMH couldn't have like even stood up for the people in our community and said, hey, we don't have everybody here at the table to speak. Potential for political influence on FSU's part and its ties to Governor DeSantis and the administration as far as like our government throughout the United States. Of course, we need more time. But I did want to like hit some things that really do concern me about this. This does pose serious risk to healthcare access and outcomes of refugee immigrant communities. We need to ensure robust community engagement, culturally competent care, and protection for vulnerable populations is crucial to mitigate these potential harms. So that's one issue I do have. And it also raises significant concerns about equitable access to quality reproductive health care for Black communities in Tallahassee. Florida already has one of the highest maternal mortality rates in the country, and the rates for Black women is over 2.5 times higher than for white women, and that's the truth. Infant mortality rates are also significantly higher for Black infants compared to other racial ethnic groups in Florida. So TMH currently plays a critical role in providing prenatal delivery and potential care and that helps address these stark disparities. Any disruption in these services could be devastating. And it's one of the reasons, I'm up here for that, because again, this is a huge high risk in regards to impacting the people in our communities as far as like the things they need. So pausing the process to ensure meaningful community input and accountability is crucial. We all need to be at the table, and that means including, community people to be at that table, being board members, right along with Florida State University, TSC, and FAMU. But equal power is what we need.
Thank you so much,
Yeah.
Trish. Let's do these two first, and then we'll take the last one.
I have one online too. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Hi, everyone. I'm John Hedrick, and I believe this whole process moved too fast. We need to slow it down. We need to be much more deliberate about it. We need, whatever ends up happening has to be local control, and it also has to be something the citizenry as a whole needs to sign off on in a referendum of some sort. This too major. Remember in the past, the city has signed off on things like coal plants that have been talked about being built in the area. This certainly is in that realm of major situation, given the one potential appraisal of all this approaches $1 billion. Estimate or whatever. Just some questions. I know and brief comments. I know that the hospital has at least one arrangement with Mayo already. How many more are there? So people are talking about we haven't been involved with them. Well, yes, we have been involved with the Mayo Clinic. The question is, how much have we been involved with them? That's one. Number two, it looks like this whole business of a taxing district that was pushed by some of the proponents of this looks like was shoved as a way to try and force the deal on through and down everyone's throats. My question is, does anyone know if anybody's filed a bill over this thing or bills over this thing? Because they have, that starts putting a whole new arrangement on it that the state is attempting to try and really get in the game on this.
Yeah, there's been no bill filed.
Not yet.
And not yet. And, we hope there isn't. That would be a tragic outcome of this as a taxing district. It's a threat that doesn't need to be out there. But it's important to note that that threat didn't come from Florida State. That threat didn't come from anybody else. It was just an influencer in the community that put that out there. So it's not, I think the possibility of that happening is incredibly remote. There's a number of different ways you could do a taxing district, and one of them, it could be done locally. It could be done by a local government. There's a lot of different ways a taxing district can happen, but there's no bill filed. And I haven't heard one city commissioner even hint that that's on anybody's mind. So, there's some serious people sitting down.
All right, Gary,
and
we
doing
gotta
serious
wrap
stuff.
it.
Okay, sorry.
Yeah, I'm gonna try it real quick. Yeah, that influencer, by the way, was one that also ran that fake push poll, but I digress. The last one I'll say right now, I had probably 4, but I'll stop at 3, is that one of the justifications that's been made for this whole thing happening is that FSU could bring in this wonderful grant funding or these wonderful monies from elsewhere. Well, what has the Trump administration been doing elsewhere around the country? They've been cutting instead of expanding. And maybe a good question to find out in this whole thing is how much money already from those cuts in research has FSU, FAMU, TSC lost in this whole process? They're thinking they're gaining. They probably have lost money already. And I think this whole expectation they're going to gain a lot of money is just totally misplaced. So thank you all.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. So we're gonna have 2 more questions here. We're gonna do another round. We're gonna do another round after
Yeah.
this, but come on up and then we got a couple live questions. All right. Yeah.
Hi, everyone. I'm Shanara Ferguson. I'm a business student at FAMU. I'll be short and sweet. I just want to make a statement. I don't support the merger now, and I won't support it in the future. I feel like it's intent, and I know TMH doesn't make the decision, but I feel like it's intentional that FAMU and TSC has been left out. I feel like it's an underlying issue, and I just don't support it. I don't see the benefit of it.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Jade McBride, and I'm a student as well as an athlete at FAMU. Kind of going off of what my friend said, I feel like, and going off of what most people said, when people make decisions and leave the majority, which is like the people who actually count out of it, it usually does not end very well. I have also encountered people who go to FSU who, for some reason, think that because they attend FSU and not TSC or FAMU, that they are superior, which is not true. But I am against the merger and I will continue to be against it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks so much for y'all showing up as students too. We
For
appreciate
sure.
that.
So the online question that I have is actually directed to Dr. Browning. As a local medical doctor, homegrown, what's your perspective about whether or not the merger should take place? I know you gave us a lot of pros and cons, but they're asking specifically.
So I don't, let me say this. As far as a personal perspective towards it, I believe I understand both sides and I understand the concern. And I believe the primary thing is to be transparent. And I believe that FAMU, Florida A&M, and TCC, it is imperative that they also have a seat at the table. I think it's imperative that those academic institutions continue to be able to learn and train just as they were. So that is my opinion, that those things should be set in stone, should be on paper, so that those things so that we don't have to question what can be changed in the future.
Thank you. Bruce, did you have some? Okay. Go ahead.
All right. So one thing that we did want to do before we get back to another round of questions. Give us 1 second. 1 second.
We're going to have another round of public comments. We just want to make sure that
we're not finishing up. We have another round of public comment. Yeah. All right. So one thing that we wanted to discuss, and we're going to have the panel here as well, is we wanted to talk about the MOU and just the board structure. But I think we did a good job of talking about the board structure already. So we're going to highlight some of the parts of the MOU. Has anybody gotten a chance to read through the MOU already? Very few people. Good. Yeah. And so we actually have it on the scan, on the QR code. It didn't work, but you could go on I believe the City of Tallahassee board docs, and you can find an actual copy of it. It's about 13 pages. I'm gonna try to highlight some of it. But like people said earlier, I can tell you that an MOU is probably worth the paper that it's on, but what it stands for is a memorandum of understanding. So that's just saying that what we're coming to the table, this is our understanding as two different parties as far as what's going to happen moving forward. And so for a contract, the difference between an MOU and a contract is legally binding. Usually with the contract it's an offer, acceptance, consideration. That's like the legal term. So with an MOU, because there's probably not that consideration in place, it's not an official offer acceptance in place. So they say, here's what we want to have an agreement on before we even get to the point of a legally binding agreement. So that's what this is about. That's what this part is about. So it is important as far as like what is going to be discussed once they get to the table. But of course, like once they actually get to the table and have a contract, that's going to be the most important part. I do think this MOU busts some of the myths that's out there. A lot of the myths that's out there. One of the myths that's out there is that TMH is broke and FSU is getting bailed out, is bailing them out. And that if FSU doesn't come in, then TMH is going to go belly up and there's going to be another corporation that comes in and take their place. That's the myth. I'm sure everybody's heard that, but I'm about to bust that myth right now, Gary, before you do that. So in the MOU, and the reason why you know that's not true, because the MOU actually says that FSU will buy the land from Tallahassee, from the city of Tallahassee, and then lease it back to TMH for 40 years. So right now, TMH is in a 40-year lease with the city of Tallahassee. So the new agreement would be that TMH will get into a new 40-year lease with FSU Health. As a part of that leasing agreement, it's pretty much the same exact agreement that they're in right now, where TMH will operate the hospital. They will hire everybody. Somebody raised the question earlier as to whether the doctors and everybody in there would then become state employees. The answer is no. They will still be TMH employees. In the agreement, everybody still work for TMH. They do not become FSU employees at that point. All right. TMH retains control over the hospital operations, other business. TMH remains independent, and the financial statements are not consolidated. So TMH financial statements are TMH's financial statements. FSU's financial statements are FSU's financial statements. They don't become one. They don't become consolidated.
Can I?
Yes.
Just
Go ahead.
which one? This one? So just real quickly on the TMH solvency. TMH is in pretty good shape. Let's remember the one key point. They're a nonprofit. Their job isn't to make a giant profit. Their job is to make people healthy. So that was a tune of about $80 million last year for people who didn't pay a penny. And so when you start looking at books, take $80 million out of the city budget and their books don't look good. I mean, the fact is TMH actually turned a profit, a modest profit of about $7.5 million this last year in the black, but TMH finances are just fine. It's a very well-run hospital.
And what he's referring to as far as the $80 million, that's $80 million in indigent care that TMH still has. And in the MOU, it states that they're required to continue Medicare, required to continue Medicaid, and also continue indigent care in the MOU. So that's something that's actually written in the MOU that is going to continue.
Yeah, that's not the other really important point. If y'all write this down, 155.40, it's a state statute, and it says that if this kind of facility is sold by a municipality, I'm paraphrasing, a significant amount of that, the proceeds need to go directly into a fund for indigent care. The city has opined that 155.40 does not apply here. I think if you read 155.40, it's certainly open to interpretation. So a big question that needs to probably be discussed is, after a sale takes place, where do those proceeds go?
All right. So TMH will have a license to use FSU Health. So the name will be FSU Health. They will actually, and TMH will actually have to purchase the license to use the name on the building. So that again goes towards their ability to pay, because they're, as a part of the agreement, they're going to have to pay to actually use the name FSU Health, which is interesting. Again, it's a 40-year lease with the automatic renewal 3 times every 10 years after that. So unless somebody steps in, it's rent for $1 per year. Again, they maintain Medicare, Medicaid. There needs to be a supermajority. So this is one thing that's come up in regards to the governance. In order to do any capital expenditure that's more than $5 million, so that's go to another county, that's a contiguous county, and build another facility. They can't just do that. They need a supermajority in order to do that. And the supermajority is 13 out of the 17 board members. So some people say that kind of alleviates the concerns about FSU taking over, or FSU having more power, even if they had the 9-8, because they wouldn't be able to do anything on that scale without a supermajority. And that scale meaning $5 million or more. And if TMH will be responsible for all costs, even if they do have such an agreement for that as well. TMH is responsible for all employees. Like I stated before, TMH makes all the repairs and the maintenance. They're requiring certain metrics to be made by TMH. So they must meet certain metrics. And in regards to the Joint Commission accreditation, the CMS star rating, HCA, HPS scores, financial metrics, and other metrics that might be specifically agreed upon by the parties, which means that in this memorandum of understanding, because a lot of people want to talk about the quality of care, FSU is requiring that TMH as the operator meet certain metrics. They haven't said what those metrics are, whether it's a C grade, B grade, A grade, but there will be certain metrics that be required to meet in order to stay within their lease, which could raise some concerns.
Yeah, that is an area of concern in the MOU that people need to pay attention to. It's not, TMH has absolutely no problem with performance standards. It is what happens if a performance standard isn't met in a certain period of time. And that's a key element. You have to, it's a hospital. Things happen. And in the original performance measures that were laid out, Shands would have failed 2 of them. I mean, things happen in hospitals. And so it needs to be something where the failure to meet it doesn't obfuscate the lease. But the failure to meet it means let's get it fixed and corrected.
But that is something that's in the MOU, so that's something that we as a community should be looking at. So to go to the board just a little bit, so the initial board is 17 directors, 2 ex officio that are voting for, ex officio that are non-voting. And then FSU has 7 initial TMH board members, which would be 3 new, 4 old. And TMH will have 10 from a pre-organized TMH board. The second year, the FSU's recommended goes to 8 and TMH has 9. So the first year, I believe it's 10 and 7. And then the second year is going to be 8 and 9, with FSU having the most. Every 3 years, I believe it'll rotate. No, I'm saying every other year it'll rotate as far as the TMH chair and the FSU recommended chair on that. So every other year it'll rotate. I'm trying to get the highlights. So on the board, no more than 3 employees of FSU on the FSU recommended directors, and if 3, one of one must be a doctor. And only 1 can be a trustee, but that's after 2 years. So the first 2 years, they can't have an FSU trustee, but after the 2 years, it could be a trustee, but it still has to meet those requirements. At least 7 of the TMH board has to be doctors. At least 2 doctors, so at least 7 of the total board have to be doctors. At least 2 of those doctors are from the FSU recommended directors, and after the first year, 3 directors or 3 doctors are the FSU recommended board. Everybody follow me? I know it's a lot. All right. No, not really. All right, it's in but we'll pull it up. But in general, they're intentionally placing certain amount of doctors on the board and trying to avoid trustees from FSU actually being on the board as well. All right. Supermajority again, that's 13 out of 17. That's required. So a supermajority is required to hire the CEO as well. So they'll need 13 out of 17 to hire a CEO. If there is a merger or acquisition, they'll need 15 out of 17 in the first year and 14 out of 17 in the second year in order for any kind of merger. All right. All right. Okay, I'm gonna wrap this up. Any questions anybody has specifically? Go ahead.
There's a suggestion or a motion that's going to be coming about making the board number 19, adding 2 more. Who would be responsible for making that decision if it were to happen in order to add 2 more so that TSC could get a board seat?
Commissioner Williams-Cox has proposed moving the board to 19 and creating a designated seat for FAMU and a designated seat for Tallahassee State College, which would mean 8 for FSU and then 2 more. And that would mean that the community seats would be down by 1. So that would be a non-starter for the TMH board. But what Commissioner Williams-Cox has signaled is that she believes a designated seat is significant as opposed to what's being negotiated now. Right now, for FAMU, they have the ability to recommend certain people. It's actually an FSU seat, and FSU will choose from one of the people recommended by FAMU, which is, look, that's FSU's prerogative. We're not criticizing that. We're not saying it's right or wrong. If whatever FAMU agrees to, FAMU agrees to. But any formula that allows higher ed to have one more seat than community is a non-starter for the board.
All right, and so I'm gonna just wrap this up, probably 2 minutes. So as far as the section on academic and clinical collaboration, this deals with the FSU academic part of it. And so FSU is responsible for getting access to funding and medical ed. Any existing research is independent, so it doesn't become a part of this merger or collaboration. And FSU will apply primarily for grants, contracts, et cetera, and shall not affect current relationships, including FSU or TSC or patient transfers. They also very specific in there that TMH cannot work with any other institution or any other university unless it's discussed prior to. So they can't work with Shands, they can't work with any other hospital like Jackson Hospital or anything like that, because of this relationship, unless they discuss it prior to. All right.
I'm not speaking for FSU, but we thought that was a reasonable provision.
Yeah. Okay. TMH will provide space for the residents and the students, and parties will create a dispute resolution strategic steering committee. They'll create a clinical research committee, and they'll also create a committee for academic programs. In regards to the one time that FAMU is mentioned in here and TSC, it states that TMH will utilize good faith and commercially reasonable efforts to recruit FAMU and TSC students to be a part of the programs. So those were some of the highlights. We talked about the branding. As far as what belongs to who, what I could read from this, you can correct me if I'm wrong, that whatever FSU develops for research belongs to FSU. So any, I guess like intellectual property, anything like that will belong to FSU as a school, and vice versa. If TMH creates anything, then that will belong to TMH. So everything remains separate in regards to that. All right. So.
All right, very good. Thank you for that overview. So we want to move to our next public comments, and we ask folks to come around up here. So unless you're mobility challenged, and then we'll come to you. But I want to acknowledge Dr. Henry Lewis, who has joined us. Would you like to give a few words to this topic, Dr. Lewis? Can you come forward, please? Thank you. Is former interim president of Florida A&M University and dean of the pharmacy school.
Let me first apologize for just getting here. Christy, Henry, and I just had a meeting of the Tallahassee Housing Authority Board, and we had to rush over here right after that. My comments tonight is going to be from Henry Lewis, not from FAMU, not as a representative of FAMU, because I have not been employed at FAMU since December 31, 2010. Do the math. I will say I am concerned about FAMU and the involvement of FAMU or lack thereof, and the potential that this partnership has for alleviating the health programs at FAMU. That is a real concern that I have, that everybody in this city ought to have in that regard. I was dean of the College of Pharmacy for 18 of 30 years that I was there. This is not the first time that the potential for FAMU College of Pharmacy in particular to come under the aegis of FSU. FAMU submitted the application for the College of Engineering before FSU did. That application was tabled until FSU prepared its application. At the same meeting of the Board of Regents at that time, it's Board of Governors now, the application for a joint College of Engineering was approved. As Dean of the College of Pharmacy, I submitted an application to the then Board of Regents to convert our BS program in pharmacy to a Doctor of Pharmacy program that was required by the accrediting agency. We did it 1 year ahead of the University of Florida. Our application was tabled, and at the same meeting of the then Board of Regents, the application for the University of Florida and Florida A&M Colleges of Pharmacy was approved to transition to the Doctor of Pharmacy degree. So I have real life reservations about this. Now, don't get me wrong. An academic health science center I support. I do not support it as is constructed in this memorandum of understanding. And keep in mind that memorandum of understanding is not a contract. And it says it very clearly on page 1. It says, and I want to quote, I don't know if you quoted it already. This MOU is non-binding. Non-binding. Do you know what that means? It ain't binding. So if it's not binding, what is going to be the binding document? And why are we rushing to do this? Tell me. I've not heard that explained by a city commission or a representative of FSU. I have not heard that. In this document, we're giving away a hospital for $1 a year. Now, we did give it away. We're just switching who we're giving it to. It's in that document. It's in that MOU. Same MOU that we're talking about. Now, FSU got approval for $400 million bond to do a facility in Panama City. They're going to get a new hospital. Our hospital is beyond its 25-year life. When are we going to get the new hospital? Or will there be a new hospital for Tallahassee? Now, if I'm a doctor, I am a doctor, but not a medical doctor. And I had a choice of coming to a new hospital, a new city with an airport that's really international, a city with a beach, a city with lower taxes. Who would you choose? I'm sorry, you gave me the mic.
I got the real you in.
You got that. All right, but I will speak hopefully a little bit later.
Thank you. All right, so listen. The first community lightning round was focused on whether or not the merger should happen. This second lightning round is, what are your proposed conditions? Okay, so everybody in line, what are your proposed conditions? Okay, please state your name and what your proposed conditions are. Thank you.
1 minute or so.
My name is Stanley Sims, and this is very important to me, and it's personal because in a week and a half, I've got to go to Gainesville to a heart specialist. So I'm really looking at this. And they shortened my time, so I got to shorten my testimony. But someone asked me, Ms. Cheryl said, if this was FAMU, would you object it? And that really hit me, Dale. I had to think. I said, well, at least FAMU had a hospital. FSU never did. And so here's my question. The conditions. Why is FAMU riding at the back of the bus? If we all paying the same amount to get on the bus, why does FAMU got to sit at the back and ask FSU which one of us can we send to the front of the bus? Now, Gary, I need you to take that back. Because hell, I'm tired of riding. Excuse me, Lord. I'm tired of riding in the back of the bus.
My name is Bill Davis, and I'll try to be brief. I believe that this we should keep the most important things in our life as close to us as we can. And we're talking about our health care. We should keep it close to our community. We should keep it close to our neighbors and our neighborhoods. This proposal will take that away from Tallahassee. It'll take it away from the neighborhoods, and it'll put it in the hands of the big donors to the Republican Party. The people like the chairman, CEO of St. Joe Company on the board of the FSU trustees, that's developing a hospital with our name on it across from 55 plus subdivision they're building outside Panama City. Those kind of people. The people that will come in and tell FAMU who their president will be regardless of their trustees. The people who will tell UF who their president will be and tell UF who's going to be on their faculty. That's what will happen. That's what will happen. Oh, well, we're going to have a memorandum of agreement that's not binding. What about the lease? FSU walked away from that ACC lease. Remember that? That was a contract. They do what's best for them. They're not looking to do what's best for us. That's why they took our jobs money and put it in the football stadium.
Good evening, I'm Janita Gmo, and I'm representing Janita Gmo because that's a full-time job. Anyway, my question is, was about, I think it was Dr. Browning who mentioned that there was money already allotted for the medical center back in 2022 or whenever the date was. I think it was about $125 million. But whatever the case may be, you always have to follow the money. So I'm just curious. I hear a lot of people saying that folks didn't know, they didn't know what was going on, but that seemed to be an immediate threat if there was already that much money being awarded to a deal between FSU and TMH back a few years ago. But right now it seems like there's a lot of agitation right now, and it's like everyone is late. So that's just my comment.
And if you want, I'll read this, and this is directly from FSU's website. In 2021, the TMH and FSU's boards jointly approved the FSU TMH Academic Health Center Strategic Alignment Plan, which laid out plans for an academic health partnership. That partnership further builds on the momentum of the FSU Health Research Center, launched in 2022 with a $125 million appropriation from the Florida legislature and Governor Ron DeSantis to expand healthcare and access and innovation across North Florida. The 140,000 square foot building is expected to open in 2026. Will house clinical research space, a family medicine residency practice, laboratories, and other facilities designed to connect research and patient care.
Hello, my name is Christopher Sharp, and I am representing Tallahassee SDS, Students for Democratic Society. I am an FSU student, and while I'm not a Tallahassee resident, there is one thing I can offer to this town hall, which is how much you should trust FSU. None. We have, as Students for Democratic Society, we've had to protest McCullough, the president of FSU, many, many times, and he does not look out for both the community members of color and the students of color. And the frustrating part is the fact that he always does what is happening here. He always does, he always tries to do it quietly, to sneak behind people's backs and hope that nobody notices. But I just want to say that I do not trust FSU's ownership of this hospital. And I think that there should be transparency, and I think that any changes in policy should go to the ears of the community members so they can know, because with a lot of these things, oftentimes they would not stand for it.
So transparency is what he was saying.
Dot Edmond Johnson.
CEO for Citizens for Government Accountability. Up until recently, this negotiation has been happening behind closed doors. The public has not been involved at all. So that gives you a sense of the lack of transparency, which is a big issue with me. Don't be fooled. This non-binding memorandum of understanding is the beginning of a very complicated process. And I have been very concerned about the process that got us here. When you look at what the city is talking about, negotiating a sale of our community hospital behind closed doors without independent appraisals, which is the requirement of city government with the sale or purchase of property. And I am concerned that we do not want to give away our community asset to FSU without making sure we are getting the benefit of what that asset is truly worth. And people, you cannot fight and make sure you are getting your fair value unless there is an organized campaign to make sure the public is knowledgeable about what is happening. I ask people to work hard to get the message out. Thank you.
So we want to remind everybody we were looking for demands or what we should be asking for the city commission.
All right, thank you. Conditions, okay. Louis Dilbert, speaking as Louis Dilbert. I'm a proud FSU graduate and proud FAMU graduate. And I would say, as what someone else has said, the condition does need to be FAMU, and even TSC needs to have a greater stake at the table. Now, that means they need to put in more, then they need to talk about that, because I understand that, the more you put in, the more you're supposed to get, right? But having one seat it means nothing. It means that FAMU will matter when they need a swing vote or when they need somebody to convince to be on their side. Because if TMH and FSU are at odds, that's when they're going to call upon FAMU to try to get their way, one side or the other. So that's when FAMU become important. More importantly, FAMU should have its own governance in selecting who it is. Okay, like Stanley said, we should not be subject to somebody else's opinion of who we should and should not put on the board. And I hope TSC can have a stake at the table as well. I think also the optics, I don't know what this would look like in regards to, well, now everything be plastered FSU, TMH, and health center, et cetera, just like UF Shands. UF has the benefit of being the only major university in that area, and Santa Fe is not really trying to have what they have, right? But we have 3 significant institutions here. TSC's population is larger than FAMU's. So to have FSU, health center, et cetera, but say, well, FAMU's included too, it's almost like people who still don't know that we have 2 other institutions when they visit Tallahassee. That cannot be. And if you want to ask the question as to why the rush, November 2026, okay? There could be changes in our city governance. There are probably not going to be any changes in our state governance, but nonetheless, I think primarily, my personal opinion, potential changes in city governance is why we are rushing this. And it's unfortunate, I'll say this last thing, okay, that the people that we have to convince that this is not a good idea don't look like Gary, don't look like Ryan, they look like me and many of you around here. And that is the most disappointing aspect of this conversation. Thank you.
You got 30 seconds.
Wow.
So you answered my question, which I appreciate, about the board and them being FSU members or whatever. I just want to go through the board of who we're actually talking about, the pre-approved board. So the chairman is faculty at FSU. The chairman-elect is a sponsor at FSU. The next person, I only got to go through 7 of these members on the TMH board. FSU School of Law professor. Next person. Professor of College of Medicine at FSU, right? All of these people are connected to FSU. All of them. The next person. Chair of the FSU College of Medicine. Okay, so not professor, but chair. But again, none of these people are connected to FSU or supposed to be connected to FSU. The next person, if anyone wants to know where the number 1 and the other number 1 for TSC and FAMU are, it's because currently on the TMH board, there is 1 person from TSC and 1 person from FAMU. The people are already picked. They're just going to manipulate it and make it seem like these are community people. None of them are. They're all FSU people. My demand is to actually have people from the community, not rich people that are already on a TMH board, appointed to a board for the community.
I mean, I really do appreciate your passion. I do, but I can tell you that's just not accurate. The former board chair owns a bookstore. The members are the head of the community foundation in North Florida. There's a realtor. They're all people who live and work in this community, and they are not tied to Florida State. I'm sorry. And again, I really appreciate your passion. It's not accurate. There's 17 board members, and they're community board members, and they give their time and energy, and they don't get any pay to do it. They really have done a fabulous job, and to disparage them here is just, it's unfortunate.
Hey, all, my name is Amanda Marie Green. Some of you might know me because I'm actually running for Congress in your district, but that's not why I'm here tonight. I'm here tonight as a Tallahassee resident who is 32 years old and 32 weeks pregnant. I'm a former operations director and a strategic pricing expert who spent 10 years working in USAID. And in my experience, when you've broken trust with a community over a program, there's a couple really tangible things we can do to build back that trust. It doesn't mean that the outcome is still a merger. I'm pretty skeptical, but one of the things that I would love to see happen that I've seen work wonders when trust is broken is when we over rely on a memorandum of understanding for months and months and months, and then folks are only given a moment to review the actual contract, the actual meat of the deal. We lose the plot. People have lives, they have kids to take care of, they have jobs to do. We need more time to review the actual contract. And so what we could do as a solution is publish a very public calendar of anticipated dates where things become public. So it's like, maybe the first week of December, we're seeing that contract, and 3 weeks later, there's a town hall that is a discussion of the actual draft contract, right? We don't have to have a signed contract in order for it to be a more legitimate piece of paper to discuss, as long as they've determined that they can publish it for us to review. I'd also like to point out that Florida is currently 47th in the country in access to healthcare. So we already have an issue with access to healthcare. This is coming at the same time that we're seeing Medicare and Medicaid cuts. And I'm pretty concerned that counties around us are going to receive less and less support than ever, which is going to apply more pressure to TMH. So at the same time that this is happening, at the same time we're seeing Medicare and Medicaid shrink, we need to look at the affordability of this for folks. And I had someone stop me in the parking lot and ask if I could ask about affordability tonight. Like, as a strategic pricing expert, it is not going to be difficult for us to look at what can we actually afford, what services can we deliver under TMH, and we cannot assume that we will be receiving federal grants. FSU lost 50 million. Someone asked earlier about grants. 50 million FSU lost under this administration. FAM lost 17. And so we need a realistic pricing structure that is also public and part of that contract. It's not strange to do rates as part of a contract. So 2 practical solutions.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Hi, I'm Yen Bailey. I am also running for Congress. It's just a coincidence we got in line after each other. But I'm also really just, I've been a resident of Tallahassee for the last 26 years, and this issue is important to me. The one question that I have always had from the beginning of this, when this process first came about, was, where is the fire? Why are we rushing this process? Why haven't we had an appraisal? Why hasn't there been a business valuation? Why have we not addressed questions like what type, what is going to happen to the staff? Why has there not been meaningful public comment? I mean, this is great, but the decision makers are not in this room, and they should be present. They should be forced to hear the public's comments about these things. I have not heard any compelling answer from anyone about why this process has been rushed. And until we get an answer to that, I believe we should go through the proper process that a deal, a business deal with hundreds of millions of dollars at stake, that we go through the proper process. That's my demand.
So a quick comment that kind of builds on that. We've had a bad history in our community of lame duck politicians making huge decisions for our community at the very end of our tenure. Y'all, that's a huge thing that we've got to be like, when you remove voter accountability at the ballot box from the equation, dangerous things for our public interest happen.
Hi, my name is Tiffany Brown. I'm a nurse practitioner here in the community. One of my demands would be, well, conditions, not demands, would be including the other private institutions here and the other colleges like Lively. Some of us went to school there, and it's hard for us to get into clinical sites when you're strictly putting in your MOU that FAMU and FSU students would be considered first, when we often get overlooked. So that would be a condition of mine, is that we're all included, so we all have those equal opportunities to get clinicals and jobs once we finish. And I had a question because I wanted to get some clarification. It was mentioned also in the MOU that FSU would sign a contract with TMH for TMH to provide medical services and do the hiring. So what's the difference in that and what has happened in our private institutions like the jails and the prisons? They also have done the same thing and use people like Centurion, Horizon Health, Yes Care, and we have a lot of disparities when we do that. So what is different when we say, oh, we're gonna get TMH to hire the medical people, but TMH is ultimately running it? But that's not true, because FSU would be running it, because they didn't hire TMH to do the legwork on getting the people in to provide the services. That's all.
So just to explain that one part, so it's pretty much it will run the same that it is now. So right now, the city of Tallahassee owns the land. TMH is the hospital that does the medical care and everything. So it'll switch from FSU owning the land and TMH still doing everything that they're doing now. When we say like they'll hire the healthcare providers, they'll still hire the doctors, the nurses, the employees, and everybody that's coming in, and not a separate entity to do the medical care. That's what it's supposed to look like. I'll say that. All right.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Max Hurley. I'm running for Tallahassee City Commission Seat 3. Together, we're going to bring peace to City Hall. But first, I'm going to tell you how we're going to do that. I am running for the seat that will have the authority to either kill this deal or approve this deal. And I am undecided about it at this moment. You all are about to watch me make this decision live. And I have a question for you all in this room. Raise your hand if you support this deal as it is proposed right now. I'm a no. I'm a no, y'all, and that's why. That is my demand. It is for this community to support this deal. And if it seems hopeless, if it seems like this is an uphill battle, I want to remind you all the stakes. And the stakes are that this is going to change our community forever. And we only need to look at history to know that. Back in May of 1956, rooms just like this, that look just like this in their makeup, began the Tallahassee bus boycotts, and they lasted for 208 days. Y'all, we have 350 days left until this election. And my question to you all is, if you want to kill this deal, if you want to stop this, can you make it 350 days? Can you last 350 days of working with this city government and getting them delayed on this? I think that's the task you all have before it. And if that's the task you all are going to take, I will join you there. Thank you all.
Thank you. James McAllister again. I'm not running for office. I feel like the odd one up here. I just have, my position on this is, I think trying to talk about contracts, MOUs, who gets seats and that sort of thing is way too early. You know, FSU has everybody else fighting over the scraps and assuming that this deal has already been done when the deal has not been done. So that's what I would want to take away. I also have a question I hope that you can answer. My understanding, and based on the letter that the city attorney contracted from a law firm to get, and why they're saying 15540 doesn't apply, is that they're not selling the land of the hospitals on. They are giving the land to FSU. Is that correct?
Well, whatever machinations the city manager had to go through to get there, he did.
I think a transfer is maybe what they're calling.
Yeah, I mean, 15540 is pretty clear. And, you know, I'll remind folks of what I said earlier, there's an audience of 5. And if 3 of those people demand that 15540 be followed, it will be.
All right. Hello, I'm Tara Botter. I'm also with SDS, but my primary demand is that an issue like this that like concerns all of us, and like we are the people going to get care at this hospital, not just FSU students, not just FAMU students, but like the city as a whole. And one of the demands that I think is most important is that we, like the Matt Lockham has suggested, is put forth a referendum on this issue because it is so consequential, and ensure that our voices are actually being heard and that we are the deciding factors in this. Because I've been to a city commissioner meeting before, and they're all Democrats, but they consistently like vote against what everyone in the room is speaking against. So all 40 speakers spoke against the 287G agreement with ICE. The vast majority of speakers at the city commission meeting were against the TMH FSU merger, and also the transfer of the golf course to a private company, and then also selling off like enslaved people's graveyard lands. And that, like, we had literally no power over that. And I think that's very concerning to me. And we should actually mobilize to have a direct impact on these decisions. Thank you.
Hey, y'all, my name is Tiwa Aiken. It's for starters, because they've already done an MOU and they haven't paid, they're starting off in bad faith. So one of the demands is for them to pay TMH the money that they agreed that they would initially. A second point is that we want a new branding that is inclusive of all the Tallahassee institutions, the universities and colleges that are present here. A board makeup that is more inclusive of these institutions, and more time. Pause this deal so that we can have a November 2026 referendum. Let the community actually see this with the calendar that was proposed.
Hello, my name is Chris from Students for Democratic Society. Yeah, so with this deal, at this point, I don't think FSU, at least morally, has a platform to stand on. I think that they have done nothing to convince the community that they're worthy of trust, and they need to be extremely transparent to where if something happens that the community members disagree with, they should be outside of their door like right then, because that is often how they try to get these things to these deals to fall apart. They take advantage of you guys, but in the fact that you guys have lives, the fact that you invest so much energy into those daily lives, and they hope that you don't have the energy to do anything against that. But the fact is that you do. As someone who's interacted with Wacola, he's a coward. My demand is that they need to, that the organizations need to post the updates to all of these as they happen, the future plans, and to make sure that just anyone in the community can look and see it without having to go through like dozens of links to find it or go through a mountain of paperwork. They need to see it right away and be able to respond right away.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Reginald Watson. I'm a member of this church. I'm one of the deacons here. So I hope that your accommodations were pleasant. I was outside. I missed a lot of the questions. I was trying to help with parking. So I'm a project manager. So one of the first things when you're doing projects is to get your constituents or shareholders together, right? Seemed like that part was missed because there wouldn't be a lot of uproar if the information would have been put out before because I think it was in the newspaper when most of the people found it out. And I think Dr. Lewis was giving some good information and he got kind of cut off. I mean, that stuff is historical. I was born in Florida A&M University Hospital. That's no longer there, at least as a hospital. And so he was telling the experience from the pharmacy, right? He kind of told some stuff that we don't see. So we need to be truthful about this stuff because money is power. FSU got a lot of money, I'm gonna just be honest. And if you can look around the city, I'm here in Tallahassee, right here. Our church is here, but I don't live here. Just look right there to the south. They about to take over all of this. And if they got the money, they kind of can do it because they can influence the decision makers. So see this healthcare stuff. I'm what they call one of them baby boomers. I need it real bad. And my wife and I went to we did a follow-up. She had been in the hospital and we did a follow-up. Went to a neurologist, right? And we said, why we did not get referred and all that kind of stuff. So he said the system is broken. Okay, that's what he said. The healthcare system is broken. So what is this going to do to improve the healthcare situation? Has that been documented? Has it been put out for people to see? Because a lot of us think it's a power grab. But how is it going to improve the community's care, which are the people? So without the people, the patient, the hospital is not going to survive. So that's how I want to just, I know we're on a timer. So I thank you for coming, right? And we again hope that everything was comfortable for you.
Appreciate it. And as we get to that, I just want to thank you all again publicly. We reached out to Elder Shepherd a couple of weeks ago, and we've done other events here at the church. The answer is always yes. When do you need to be there? When do you need to have the doors open? And they give us access to everything. And we also have Vaughn Wilson, who's up top, who's handling all of the technology that's allowing us to stream this live. But I just want to publicly thank you all before we close out. So Bond is going up the stairs, and everybody for Watson Temple. Thank you all for allowing us to do this.
I'm Sarah Cawthon. Too many times, all of us have seen the city commission listen to the crowd, the overwhelming comments, and they do nothing. So I'm asking the legal minds that we have here, can we, as a group of citizens, because we are involved in this, file an injunction? I mean, I don't trust the city commission. They could listen to people for days and their minds are already made up.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Maisha Mitchell. I have a couple of concerns I want to air here, and I'm not necessarily talking about FSU, TMH, etc. I'm talking about us. Informed citizenry. We have to be citizens who are informed. Truth be told, FSU, TMH, they all have funds, they all got money. And TMH got plenty of money because of the Hill-Burton Act. Many of you may not even know that. That was money that was for indigenous care. So we own it, you just don't know it. For that $1, it's the people, the Construction Act that was dealt in 1946 called Hill-Burton. And Hill-Burton was the money that was put down from the federal government for people who were underserved. That's how all the big construction happened to all the major hospitals in the country. They used the money from people who were underserved. You got to know this and how the money works. Follow the money. So that 400 million y'all heard about, you know, 155.40 Gary is talking about. We know that we have to know these things, because if you don't recognize it, we will not have a hospital that is owned by the people. TMH belongs to us. Remember that.
Hello, my name is Shirley Zahn. I really have learned a lot and been very inspired by the many speakers tonight. There's a lot of brilliant ideas, a lot of, not all in agreement, but I just want to be very simple. I have to go back to the fact that all of these ideas, I think, need to be channeled and processed, but we can't do anything if they already take a vote by those 3 out of 5 people. So I just ask that, as Mr. Yorton mentioned earlier, that if 3 people can make this whole decision and then it'll be a fait accompli, I'm sorry to say, I'm afraid all this brilliance will go to waste. So if there's some way that it can be mobilized, as someone else has said, for the objection to be made to stop the vote, I wish that would be possible.
Hi, Shirley Stuckey again. I'm afraid I didn't make my point before when I was talking about human experimentation and informed consent. My point was, how do you get informed consent from a stroke victim or a person with dementia or a person who's in constant pain? You can't really get informed consent from people like that who are suffering. And that is my fear with a research, facility from FSU. And as far as remedy, I think maybe a referendum is a good idea, but we're going to have to fight like hell. We're going to have to really educate people and be out there and be talking about it, and it'll be a lot of hard work. Another solution that I'm going to do, we have got to start taking better care of our health. Then we won't have to worry about a lot of this. We have got to start taking better care of our bodies. So eat right, get out and have a walk, drink clean water. Please take care of your health. And thank you for this opportunity again.
So before we let our brothers come and wrap everything up, we wanted, and when I say we, Dr. Marla Williams-Clark, Chuck Hobbs, Nicole Everett, Bruce Struble, Serenity Williams, myself, Mutaki Akbar. We just wanted to thank everybody for coming. Again, this started as like kind of a conversation between a few of us just saying what should happen with this whole deal. And it turned into the online discussion that we had. And then it turned into this. And this is an amazing turnout. And we want to thank everybody, and especially thank our panelists and for coming and being willing to answer questions. And before Brother Dale and Brother Lewis wrap this up, so we have to leave here with a call to action, right? So it's not just to talk. We have to leave here with a call to action. That's what we're going to bring. And so one of the things that we want everybody to do is set up a time to speak to the commissioners, every one of them. So not just the three that we think are voting one way or the two that we think are voting another way, but every single one of the city commissioners, and have a conversation with them. And what we're getting out of what we heard today, no matter what our individual discussions are, like the main thing that we've got out of this is that this thing needs to slow down. So it's our understanding that December 10th there's a vote on December 10th.
The number one thing you want to tell every city commissioner is do not transfer the asset until the contracts are done, which means the community will have the time to have all these discussions.
All right.
Don't give away the hospital until we know what the contracts say.
All right. So thank you all, and I'm gonna let former President Dale Landry have some closing remarks.
Thank you. First of all, I'm gonna tell you how this all got started. Chuck Hobbs put out an article in the paper, in his observation. I read it. I called Chuck. It was about the hospital. I said, Chuck, we got to do something. So Chuck said, Dale, we're going to do something. I'm going to call Nicole. Then I said, well, let me get my president, because I'm not the president of the NAACP anymore. I enjoyed it for 9 years, but that's my president right back there. That's my president. Be very clear. And I got him on the phone, and then the next thing I know, we got a meeting down in, what they call that, the Monroe, on a Sunday. I wasn't drinking. And the next thing I know out of that, these cats got together and we all on a text, and we texting. And the next thing, my text is blown up. Each of them have to give me $25 to help settle my cell phone bill. But the bottom line, I share all of that with you because you need to have a little levity to it. But two things I want to bring up that I think very important that need to happen. First of all, this is so wrong. This is so wrong. You know, I just pulled John to the side. I said, John, can we get a legal thing together to do an injunction? I'm serious, I don't play games. Because the reality of it is, this has got to stop. This train got to stop. This is wrong. You all do need to go see your city commissioners, because I'm going to tell you something. I talked to a couple of them. Guess what one of them told me when I said, well, can we go let the people vote? And guess what they told me? They said, the people don't understand this enough. So I got to do what we got to do. I'm not going to do that. But I'm going to tell you, go talk to them and ask them, which one of y'all told Dale that? Now, I don't play games. FAMU's health is at stake, people. Do not play with that. Dr. Lewis is going to carry more on about it, but I've been sitting back watching things develop. Remember they said they want to do an academic school, health, what do they call that? Health academic center? Folk, they ain't finna let FAMU sit over there and have access that they need to round that center out. It's a matter of, what's my boy name, Levine? What his name is? Alan Levine sending a message to Marva, telling her, or not to Marva, to the chairman of the board of trustees, transfer the assets. That simple. It ain't got to go through the legislature. It ain't got to go nowhere. That simple. And that you've been there for the when they selected President Johnson, and that's passed. I'm not bringing that up again, but that you've been there to see that event, you know how easy it is to transfer those assets. People, what day is that they're gonna have the city commission meeting? We're supposed to be there? What day? Ladies and gentlemen, on December the 9th, dark clouds are gonna be gathering. Have y'all heard that before? On December the 9th, there's a tempest outside right now. We can't see it, but on December the 9th, the dark clouds are gathering downtown. On December the 10th, and I learned this from an old city commissioner, Gary, you might remember him. I think his name was John Paul Bailey. Bailey told me something one time. He said, Dale, if you want to see change, the people of the community got to show up and be there in front of the commission, overwhelming. And you need to be there, and you need to have a placard say, I am voting on November the 26th. So you can let some people that are sitting there know. Make your mind up. I am voting on November the 26th. Akbar said, President Akbar said, because we got four presidents in here of the NAACP past and present. We do what we call, and this is not, unless you want it to be, Mr. President, I cannot do an NAACP call. That's your call to do that. But what we do is we have a thing called a call to action. I am not representing the NAACP on this in any capacity. And I need to say that and be outspoken about it because he has to go to his executive committee to get that kind of permission to do that. I can be just an old rogue renegade that ain't got no authority. But I can call you as a fellow citizen. I can call you as a fellow community member. I can call you as a father that has grandchildren that go to the hospital. I can say to you this, we need you there on December the 10th in numbers. And just as they said, bombard them between now and then be there again on December the 10th to reconfirm. This needs to stop until next year. And let me tell y'all why it's important. Because by the time November 26th, DeSantis ain't got but about a month. I don't think he have enough time to try to transfer the asset. Now, maybe speaking ahead of time, but however, let's vote on it. And let's demand that it be put out there. Because see, the other thing that got me, that's a whole lot of money and ain't even an assessment been done? I mean, not assessment, what we call that? Appraisal? And I've heard rumors, it's up high. When y'all look at them big buildings, and I looked at them from a distance, I know it's more than $114 million. And the FAMU Foundation, I'm gonna help FAMU Foundation get 120 so we can put in a new bid. Because whoever buys that property, nothing says they can't go sell it later and reap the rewards that will go to a foundation. And the people's property has been transferred. So on that note, I say that's what we need. I ask you, I plead with you, join me and fellow Rattlers when we gather up there, because I'm wearing my colors, people. I'm gonna be in my Rattler best. We need to be there to let them know it ain't going that easy this time. Gentlemen, thank you. You all done a great job, if I may commend you myself. And I'm going back into retirement, Mr. President. Mr. President.
Thank you, sir.
You're welcome, sir.
Let me say clearly that I support an academic health sciences center coming to Tallahassee. I do not support it as it's being construed right now. I became a county commissioner with Gary Jordan because the NAACP sued the county for single-member districts. My recommendation tonight is, if this city votes 155 for this, the NAACP, the ACLU, and the Southern Regional Poverty Legal Center file a lawsuit against the city of Tallahassee in order to postpone and delay and stop this from being done unless it's done right. And only a court of law may have to do that. We asked the county to change the single-member districts through the NAACP. They did not. We asked the city to take a pause on this particular item, and they are not. So on December 10th, if they do vote for this, I would hope that we as a community put the money together to help us file a lawsuit to stop this. And this is speaking by Henry Louis III only, because this is not right for us. It's right for the community, but it's not right the way they're doing it. And that's what we got to fight right now, the process. I don't think anybody, I've not heard too many people against the medical center coming here. It's be a good thing. I worked at the University of Chicago Health Sciences Center. I worked at Emory University Health Sciences Center. All of them are working well for the community. The University of South Florida formed an academic health sciences center in conjunction with Tampa General Hospital. My first job as a pharmacist was at Tampa General Hospital. Tampa General Hospital still owns their hospital. And we have a very active, viable, and profitable academic health sciences center in Tampa, Florida, right now, in conjunction with another state university. So you do not have to own the hospital to have an academic health sciences center. Don't let anybody fool you that that's the case. Now I'm going to say this. Is this about football? Is this about football? Is this about joining the Big Ten? Is this really about joining the Big Ten? Because and is this about becoming an academic AAU university? It is probably about becoming an AAU university, because most, if not all of the AAU universities have an academic health science center. And most of them are in the Big Ten. I said it. You do your research, because I've done mine. Because this is about football, and we're mixing football and healthcare. Thank you.
So we'll have emails going out with the wrap up.
Okay. Thank you everyone for coming. That concludes the event for tonight. Please, before you leave, make sure that you signed up. We'll be having a follow-up with everyone via email in 24 hours or 48 hours, just to give myself time. And that's where we'll announce next steps and we'll summarize all the actions we discussed tonight. Thank you so much. Everyone have a great evening.
Get home safely.
Thanks.